Take a block of ordinary concrete, the kind used to build apartment towers, highways, bridges. Same gravel, same sand, same cement, same water the industry has used for decades. Now squeeze it while it's still fresh. Squeeze it hard. And when it sets, test its strength. The result is 68% stronger. Not a different material, not a new formula, not a high-tech additive sourced from a laboratory in Germany or Japan. Same ingredients, different process. And the construction world is starting to pay attention. For most of the 20th century, if you wanted stronger concrete, you had one basic path. Change the recipe. Add silica fume, add fly ash, add specialty fibers. Use ultra-high performance formulas that cost several times more than standard concrete. You reformulated the material and you paid for it. That assumption ran through the entire concrete industry. Engineers designed around it, suppliers priced around it. Decades of research pointed in that direction, and it made a certain kind of sense. If you want better output, you put in better ingredients. Here's where it gets strange. A team of Chinese researchers working largely at Guangzhou University under Professor Zhenpeng Wu decided to challenge that assumption, not by inventing a new substance, by rethinking what happens inside the material while it's still wet. The question they asked was simple enough. What if the problem wasn't the recipe? What if the problem was how we've always poured it? Concrete is, at its core, a porous material. When you mix it and pour it into a mold, you're also trapping water in tiny air pockets throughout the structure. Standard practice for decades has been to vibrate the mold. A machine shakes the concrete to push out larger bubbles and help everything settle. But no amount of vibration eliminates the microscopic gaps. The water that makes the mix workable leaves behind tiny voids as it evaporates. Those voids become weak points, and under stress, cracks start from weak points. The researchers saw this and asked, what if instead of shaking the concrete, we pressed it, not after it hardened, while it was still fresh and plastic, while all the ingredients were still moving and adjustable? The technique works like this. You pour the concrete into a mold. Then you apply pressure, significant pressure ranging from around 5 megapascals up to 20 megapascals in some tests. That pressure pushes out the excess water. It compacts the entire mixture. The aggregate particles get packed more tightly together. The cement paste fills gaps it would have otherwise left behind. And when the concrete sets and cures, what remains is a denser, more uniform internal structure than standard pouring can produce. The difference under a microscope is visible. In a conventionally cast sample, you see irregular gaps throughout, tiny but present, like pores in a sponge. In the compression cast version, those gaps are dramatically reduced. The material looks almost solid by comparison. And the strength results match what the microscope shows. Tests on 128 specimens, a systematic set of trials adjusting the water to cement ratio, sand ratio, cement content, applied pressure, and compression time produced a consistent result. On average, compression cast concrete showed compressive strength 68% higher than conventionally cast concrete made from the exact same mix. 68%. From the same bag of cement, the same gravel, the same water. In some configurations, the results went further. Tests on certain concrete mixes showed strength improvements of up to 93%. In other words, close to double the strength without changing a single ingredient. For context, the concrete industry has spent roughly a century trying to squeeze meaningful strength improvements out of the material. Ultra-high performance concrete, the premium product used in demanding infrastructure applications, requires an entirely different formulation, specialty fibers, and costs many times more. Compression cast concrete does not replace that class of material, but for the vast middle range of construction, the concrete used in buildings, bridges, roads, precast panels, and parking structures, the improvement being described is extraordinary. And it gets more complicated from here. The researchers noticed something else happening during the compression process. As the pressure was applied, excess cement paste was actually squeezed out of the mold. The concrete was physically ejecting material it did not need. That observation led to a second discovery. If the concrete becomes stronger under pressure even with less cement, then perhaps you do not need as much cement to begin with. The researchers began reducing cement content in their mixes, applying pressure, and measuring the results. They kept cutting until the strength just met the design target. In one set of tests, a standard C30 concrete mix, a common grade used across Chinese construction, produced target-level strength with roughly 45% less cement than conventionally required. That number matters for a specific reason. Cement is the expensive part. Cement is the carbon-intensive part. Cement production accounts for a significant share of global industrial carbon dioxide emissions. A process that can achieve the same structural outcome using nearly half the cement does not just create stronger concrete, it potentially transforms the economics and the environmental footprint of the most widely consumed building material on Earth. And the Western construction industry didn't come up with this. Here's what's worth sitting with. The global construction sector spent decades attacking concrete from one direction: chemistry, better ingredients, premium formulas, generation after generation of additives. The assumption was that the material had to become chemically different to become significantly stronger. Chinese researchers shifted the question entirely. They stopped asking what was in the concrete and started asking what happened to it during production. China consumes roughly half of global concrete production. At that scale, the financial incentive to solve the problem differently was real and sustained. The compression casting concept has roots going back decades, but the systematic work that quantified the gains and demonstrated the commercial pathway developed in Chinese institutions. The results are reproducible. That's why the rest of the world is now paying attention. But there is a limitation that the research community has been honest about. Compression casting works by applying pressure to fresh concrete inside a mold. That means it is most naturally suited to precast concrete production, where concrete is manufactured in a factory environment, poured into forms, pressed, and then transported to the construction site. It is a controlled setting. You can bring the press to the material. For poured-in-place concrete, the kind used in skyscraper cores, tunnel linings, dam walls, and foundations, applying that kind of pressure during casting is significantly more difficult. The applications are different, the logistics are different, and the scale of investment required to retrofit a pour-in-place process is not trivial. This is not a complete revolution in how all concrete gets made. It is, for now, a transformation in how precast concrete gets made. And precast concrete is enormous. The global precast concrete market runs into the hundreds of billions of dollars. Precast panels, precast beams, precast highway elements, precast railway sleepers, precast structural frames. The scope of application for this particular technique is genuinely large, even if it doesn't touch every concrete application immediately. The question is whether adoption happens fast enough to matter. A parallel development is pushing in the same direction. If compression casting makes the concrete you use significantly stronger, and if structural optimization simultaneously reduces how much concrete you need, those two trends don't just add together, they multiply. A building that needs less concrete per floor, made from concrete that is 60 to 90% stronger than conventional mixes, can achieve the same structural performance with a fraction of the material. The implications ripple through cost, carbon, weight, and construction speed simultaneously. That combination is why structural engineers who follow materials research are starting to pay attention to what's coming out of Chinese research institutions, not as an abstract academic matter, as something that changes the competitive position of construction firms that adopt it early against those that don't. The concrete industry moves slowly. It always has. That conservatism is a real force. It has slowed adoption of other well-documented improvements before, but the math here may be different. Compression casting doesn't require changing the recipe that contractors and suppliers already use. It doesn't require sourcing specialty materials. It requires adding a pressing step in the manufacturing process. For precast manufacturers, who already run factory environments with controlled processes and capital equipment, that addition is incremental, not transformational. And the economic case is not subtle. Less cement per unit of structural performance means lower material costs. Better durability. The research consistently shows compression cast concrete performing better on water absorption, chloride penetration, and carbonation resistance, means longer service life and lower maintenance. Faster strength development in some tests means quicker formwork reuse cycles and higher factory throughput. Each of those factors has a dollar value. When the numbers work out clearly enough, even conservative industries move. The deeper question is what happens next. Research groups in Europe, Asia, and North America are now examining the technique. Journals are publishing new studies as fast as the work can be reviewed. Several precast manufacturers are at various stages of piloting the process. The trajectory of academic publication on compression cast concrete has been sharply upward over the last few years. Meanwhile, the strength numbers keep showing up. Different mixed designs, different pressures, different research teams in different countries running the same kind of tests and arriving at similar conclusions. The gain is real. The physics behind it is understood. The technique is not a fluke. What remains genuinely open is the pace of industrial adoption and which parts of the world get there first. China, where the research originated, where precast capacity is immense, and where infrastructure construction continues at a scale unlike anything elsewhere, has the most direct pathway to deployment at volume. Other countries will watch the results from operational projects. Then they'll move. There's something almost counterintuitive about the whole story. If you'd asked any structural engineer a decade ago whether standard concrete still had room for a dramatic improvement without touching the ingredients, most would have said no. The gains left were at the margins. And yet, the concrete recipe stayed the same. The strength went up by 68%, not by reformulating the material, by reconsidering what you do with it while it's still fresh. That's the kind of finding that looks simple in retrospect and wasn't obvious at all until someone actually ran the tests. What happens to the construction industry's century-old assumptions about the cost, the weight, and the carbon footprint of its most fundamental material? That's still being worked out. But the concrete is already getting stronger, and nothing inside the recipe has changed. 68% stronger, same ingredients. The question now is whether the industry actually moves or finds a reason not to. Leave your take in the comments. Thanks for watching.